There have been a lot of beloved video game companies to have closed over the years, but the passing of LucasArts stung the most, with the beloved studio and publisher being put out to pasture by Disney following their acquisition of Lucasfilm in 2012. There had been a real disturbance in the force. A few months after LucasArts closed, insiders opened up to Game Informer about the troubles that had plagued the once-renowned studio, and, more interestingly, the games they left behind. It's a phenomenal article and one I'd encourage everyone to go check out, but the main thing really is that there was a ridiculous list of titles that were left on the cutting room floor, all of which point towards a studio racked by indecision and uncertainty. But of course, LucasArts aren't the only publisher to have pulled the plug on some seriously great-sounding Star Wars games. EA themselves have developed a knack for canning Star Wars projects in a high-profile fashion, even if they have begun to turn a corner in recent years. Long sought-after sequels and new IPs alike, the demise of LucasArts and EA's cancelled Star Wars games makes for a tragedy befitting even the great Darth Plagueis himself. So, I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Gaming, and here are 10 cancelled Star Wars video games that would have made millions. Number 10. Imperial Commando. One of the surprise hits of 2005, Star Wars Republic Commando was a title that put players underneath the armor of the Republic's finest soldiers. Incorporating squad-based tactics with a unique tale to boot, it's a wonder why a sequel never took off the ground, especially considering the note the first game ended on. Turns out a sequel to Republic Commando definitely reached the conceptual stage at LucasArts, with the main premise behind the project being Delta Squad's ordeal during the infamous Jedi purges of Order 66. Players would have reassumed the role of Delta's leader, leading the squad in a campaign to track down the remnants of the Jedi Order. It really is befuddling how this project never moved forward within LucasArts. The Rainbow Six-esque gameplay alone was enough of a reason to venture into Republic Commando, but the story opportunities presented by taking on an Imperial role should have made this particular sequel a no-brainer. Plus, we still need to know what happened to Sev. Number 9. Rebel Warrior. Without a doubt, the most unorthodox title on this list, Star Wars Rebel Warrior was a project centered around the experience of a Wookiee during the early days of the Empire's enslavement of the species, and would have had the player using a variety of violent means to wreak havoc amongst the Imperial ranks. The maturity and violence of Rebel Warrior's subject matter was probably its undoing, but again, this is a title that would have had the potential to be something truly great. Having a game that wouldn't shy away from the darker elements of the galaxy far, far away would have not only reached new audiences, but also given fans the lifelong dream of ripping a stormtrooper's arms right out of their sockets, Chewbacca style. Number 8. First Assault. Perhaps the most baffling cancellation on this list, Star Wars First Assault was an upcoming downloadable first-person shooter that was originally going to precede the forever gestating Battlefront 3. With a release date of 2013, First Assault would have given players the opportunity to engage in iconic Star Wars environments, all whilst having the pleasure of vaporizing their friends with the blaster of their choice. Gameplay itself looked fast and intuitive, with stormtroopers and rebels being pitted against each other in environments such as Mos Eisley and Cloud City, to name just a few. Leaked footage showed a game well polished and full of stuff to do, and the release would have been the perfect thing to tide gamers over until the eventual release of that third Battlefront title. Tellingly, the only reason this project was canned was because of LucasArts' liquidation. To see a project so close to completion being yanked away without warning is disappointing to say the least. And while DICE's 2 Battlefront titles have delivered the goods, eventually, a small-scale FPS should still pique players' interests. Number 7. Smuggler. Although this cancelled release substituted its first creative namesake, Scum and Villainy, for a more mundane one, Smuggler sounded anything but boring. This is a game that exuded creativity on a magnificent scale. Taking on the persona of a smuggler during the Empire's reign would make for a Star Wars game markedly different from the usual cut-and-mold titles gamers have seen before, with the most valuable weapons being stealth and piloting skills instead of a usual lightsaber or blaster. Smuggler would have introduced a number of mechanics unfamiliar to Star Wars releases of old, including the ability to customize your own character and crew, embark on missions of your own choosing, and buy and sell products with other players and traders. Like many of the other titles on this list though, Smuggler reached the conceptual stage of development in 2004, but was sadly canned in the following year, which is especially sad considering just what a unique concept this game had. Number 6. Projects Ragtag and Orca. When EA took the reins on the Star Wars license in 2013, there was plenty of reason to be both optimistic and cautious. On one hand, they had a load of talented studios and developers at their command. On the other, they were EA, so yeah. And things didn't start out great either. Battlefront 2015 was fun but light on content, and its 2017 follow-up suffered a horrendous loot box controversy it struggled to ever recover from. Both of these controversies were made worse, however, by the fact EA suffered 2 high-profile Star Wars cancellations at this time. One from Visceral Games called Project Ragtag, which was being led by Uncharted's Amy Hennig, and another from EA Vancouver, which had the name Project Orca. Both were single-player Star Wars titles, and both sounded really cool. According to Kotaku, Ragtag would have put players in the shoes of a scoundrel or smuggler, and was billed as something of a linear, story-driven heist game after initially starting out as something more akin to Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Unfortunately, Visceral's involvement in the much-maligned Battlefield hardline took a heavy toll on the studio, which was already playing catch-up after Ragtag's switch from open-world to linear gameplay and suffering the quirks of DICE's Frostbite engine. Orca 2 was supposedly meant to focus on a scoundrel in the lead, but maintained its open-world focus throughout. This was also sadly cancelled, but hey, at least we have Fallen Order sequels to keep us going in the meantime. Number 5. Rogue Squadron X-Wing vs TIE Fighter. Already one of the more beloved Star Wars games to have come from LucasArts' golden era, the Rogue Squadron series was more than ready to make the leap to the then next-gen consoles back in 2008. Originally proposed as a remaster of the original Rogue Squadron trilogy, the developers over at Factor 5 also wished to pursue a fully fledged next-gen release that would have added an online component to the series, both co-op and competitive multiplayer included. Both projects were sadly cancelled, however, due to Factor 5's financial troubles after the 2008 financial crisis, even despite desperate attempts from the studio to bring the release to the Wii. Eventually, a much stripped-down mold of the game went on to become the PlayStation exclusive lair, though it's clear Rogue Squadron was where Factor 5's heart truly belonged. Number 4. Darth Maul. Bound to rouse fans of this particularly iconic Sith warrior, a Darth Maul game saw significant development from Red Fly Studios, who eventually went on to release Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Initially conceived as being something of an origin story for the double-bladed combatant, studio interference eventually shifted the title's narrative to coincide with Maul's return on the Clone Wars animated series, bridging the gap between his dismemberment at the hands of Obi-Wan and his brother Savage Opress rescuing him. A game centered around the titular villain would have given an already fan-favorite character the attention he deserved. Gameplay captured Maul's acrobatic flair perfectly, with due attention being given to his iconic lightsaber style that sent ripples through the Star Wars fandom back in his 1999 debut. Number 3. 1313. Perhaps the most infamous of Star Wars cancellations, 1313 had it all. Hot on the heels of its gorgeous debut at E3 2013, leaked concept art showed that the title would have focused on Boba Fett's rise to power as the galaxy's deadliest bounty hunter. On top of taking place in a vibrant and then unseen segment of Coruscant's underworld, 1313's gameplay utilized familiar third-person shooter elements in a distinctly Star Wars fashion, making for one of the best E3 demos in recent memory. Like Darth Maul, Boba holds a great amount of adoration among Star Wars fans, and a game of its own would have been just the thing to put LucasArts back on the path to success after wasting their time doing Star Wars Connect, even though I love it dearly. With the 1313 license now expired though, and with EA still only tentatively embracing single-player Star Wars games, Boba's would-be title presents a painful reminder for fans clamoring for a definitive bounty hunter experience on consoles. Number 2. Jedi Knight 3 Brink of Darkness. Fondly remembered by many fans as being one of, if not the best series of Star Wars games to be released by LucasArts, the Jedi Knight series accomplished the goal of making the player feel like a Jedi in a way no other title ever really could. Revolving around the adventures of Imperial-turned-Jedi Kyle Katarn and the now popularized post-Episode 6 setting, the Jedi Knight games were renowned for their narrative and immersive gameplay. Considering the critical and commercial success the series enjoyed, however, it's kind of shocking to discover that a third game was never pursued beyond the initial conceptual phase of development. The series may no longer be around, but its influence is plain to see on Respawn's Jedi Fallen Order. Kyle Katarn in particular deserves some kind of comeback though, either as a cameo in an upcoming Star Wars game or some other piece of expanded universe literature. And number 1, Knights of the Old Republic 3. The demand for a third Knights of the Old Republic game, even close to 2 decades after its release, is still pretty palpable, with legions of loyal fans calling for a threequel to be made. Of all the Star Wars sequels LucasArts could have made, KOTOR 3 should have been a no-brainer, but fans heard nothing about a follow-up in the years following the release of Obsidian's The Sith Lords. It's properly baffling given just how successful the franchise was, but it turns out LucasArts did commence work on a third Knights of the Old Republic. It's properly baffling given just how successful the franchise was, but it turns out LucasArts did commence work on a third Knights of the Old Republic. It just never got beyond the conceptual stage of development. But why was the third game shelved exactly? Well, not even LucasArts' employees seem to know the answer. No, seriously, the title reached the conceptual phase, but no one at the company seems to understand just why the project wasn't pursued further, especially since the majority of the game's groundwork had been laid by that point, including the story and class types. Regardless of the tragic demise of KOTOR 3, rumors of a KOTOR remaster and remake have been doing the rounds for the last few years. It's more than likely that both EA and Lucasfilm are aware of the love that's out there for the series, so here's hoping it isn't left to languish for too much longer. Those characters and that era are just too good to waste. And that was just 10 of the many cancelled Star Wars games that could have made millions. Are there any titles you're particularly bummed about not getting made? Let the hate flow through you in the comments below, but while you're down there, it would be great if you could indulge your lighter side and give this video a like. It's a brand new channel with all sorts of lovely content on the galaxy far away, and we would be honoured if you would join us. That's all for now though. I've been Ewan, take care, and I will see you soon. Bye!